Fear is the path to the dark side.
I think John Stewart's a bigot. I think he looks.
John Stewart's a bigot. Hold on. Now we're going to get into it. John Stewart, my old boss, my friend.
Yeah, I think he's a bigot.
How is he a bigot? What group is he bigoted towards?
Everybody else who's not like him. Look at his show. I mean, what does he surround himself with?
But listen, he picks on Jews all the time. He's a Jew.
Yeah.
He focuses on them. I think he overcompensates to some extent. I always notice that.
Yeah.
He goes after himself.
Well, by the way,
and people like him and everybody else. I disagree with you, and I defy you to give me a specific example.
Let me give you an example of what I mean about that. By the way.
So a funny thing happened on my way to making this video when, as I've been doing for the past few months on my Twitter and Facebook pages, I posted my idea for this video about how The Daily Show ridiculed Competitive Enterprise Institute General Counsel Sam Kasman for making exaggerated claims about First Lady Michelle Obama's anti-obesity campaign, and even going so far as to compare it to an anti-tobacco and wellness campaign in Nazi Germany. But as I was cutting the clips for my video, the funny thing that happened was I got an email from Sam Kasman himself offering to tell me his side of the story, which he let me record in a phone call interview to include in this video, to let viewers decide if The Daily Show treated him fairly in the way they included him in this larger satirical piece about First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, which, again, Michelle Obama says is about fighting childhood obesity, but apparently not everyone agrees, as you can see in this clip.
According to Sam Kasman of the Competitive Enterprise Institute, this is about something much bigger than losing a few pounds.
Michelle Obama's got a vision of this country that she wants to see it become, and she thinks it's her prerogative to impose it on everyone.
Why are they making a federal issue out of it?
I think control of food is a code for control of the way people live.
Now, Sam Kasman already lost me with his rhetoric there, because I think it's overly harsh to characterize the First Lady as believing she has some prerogative to impose her vision of America on everyone. Certainly not based on the recommendations in the report of her task force on childhood obesity that you can read for yourself at tinyurl.com/letsmovereport. And The Daily Show drove that point home by the way they presented this next clip.
This is the point at which where the liberal viewer and I disagree. One reading of the Food Safety Monitorization Act/bill, known as S510, previously known as HR 875, will put massive restrictions on small farms, including backyard gardens, which goes to what Mr. Katzman was saying about control of food, control of people. Now, what the liberal viewer was saying about his characterization of Michelle Obama, we don't disagree with.
What actual laws has the administration passed?
I think eventually, under the Obama administration, we're going to see restrictions on the use of salt in processed foods.
What about the actual laws?
One is, in terms of the actual laws passed by the administration, one is a lot of it is in the way of recommendations.
Now, the editing of that clip is somewhat more controversial, according to Sam Kasman's side of the story, because he says The Daily Show edited out him giving an actual law in response to correspondent Josh Gad's question, and even edited in his stammer as he explained his recollection of what happened here.
My recollection is that I said the one specific law already on the books is a mandate for nutritional labeling in restaurant chain menus, which was part of the Obama healthcare bill. But the way it plays in the segment they demonstrate, the way it plays in the segment they showed is it's like I start stuttering because I don't have an answer. Now, I probably did stumble several times, but viewing that tape with one of my video guys, the fact that I start off stuttering with my face looking at the camera, and then it seems to continue with the back of my head being shown, strongly suggests that they were just looping that to recreate a grade school stutter that I haven't heard for quite some time.
Now that's a pretty serious allegation, because even though The Daily Show isn't a news show and doesn't claim to follow journalistic standards, Daily Show host John Stewart has said he puts effort into making sure subjects are treated fairly and not taken out of context, as I showed John Stewart explaining to Bill O'Reilly in one of my videos earlier this year that you can see in this clip.
We're not looking to make cheap political points against people we don't like.
Okay.
We're not looking to take things out of context, and quite frankly, we work pretty hard not to.
And I'm not sure what John Stewart said there is true if what Sam Kasman says about that previous clip is true, and that's not even the worst allegation Sam Kasman made, because The Daily Show didn't stop the ridicule just with showing him stammering, unable to name any laws, and just able to point to Michelle Obama's recommendations to stop obesity. The Daily Show's ridicule went even further in this next clip.
That's right, recommendations. And that can only lead to one thing.
This is just the first step in a campaign that's going to be colossal.
Like?
Pre-war Nazi Germany had one of the most energetic anti-tobacco programs in the world, and also a healthful, a wellness program.
And that's the most damning clip of Kasman on The Daily Show, which just piled on the ridicule with this continuation.
How could we have been so blind? Shockingly, history may be repeating itself.
Next time, instead of ice cream, how about a nice piece of fruit?
Well, in what other ways is Michelle Obama like Hitler? What's next? Special camps for fat people? Oh my God, it's already begun.
And now that was definitely entertaining, but it's not a fair representation of reality, at least to hear Sam Kasman tell it, because after pointing out a discrepancy in the way his legs were crossed between Josh Gad's question and Sam Kasman's answer about pre-war Nazi Germany, Kasman went on to tell me,
this went on for more than 2 hours, and my recollection is that we talked for a good long chunk about the nutritional issues. We got into other issues. One was tobacco, another was global warming, and then we probably went back to nutritional issues because the producer wanted Josh Gad to go over a number of points on this, what was almost a script that they had laid out. So he'd say, try 15A again, let's try another take on 16, and then they'd whisper, and then Gad would start doing some other stuff. My best recollection is that after a long discussion of nutritional issues, Josh switched the topic over to tobacco control, our views on tobacco, which are essentially, it's a risky activity. Adults know the risk. Adults ought to be able to take those risks. And somehow we got onto the question of what Nazi Germany had done on tobacco control, on which there happens to be quite a published literature that I can send you a link to on Amazon. I mean, there are quite a few books on that topic. And I'm pretty sure I asked at that point, we're talking about tobacco here, right, not food. Because earlier on, I recall Gad asking me directly, do you see, when we're talking about food, do you see a comparison between what the government is doing here and Nazi Germany? And I am sure I said absolutely not.
So according to Sam Kasman, The Daily Show removed his definitive rejection of any comparison between Michelle Obama and the Nazis, and although in that answer he said that somehow the subject of Nazi Germany came up, when I asked him directly if he or Josh Gad brought up the subject first, he said,
Oh, no, it was Gad. It was Gad. It was like he wanted me to say something about it.
And that last answer makes me think there might even be a middle ground between the versions, because Sam Kasman is basically saying he was baited into mentioning Nazi Germany, but that kind of scenario can play out where someone is not just baited, but takes the bait, though to do that kind of nuanced analysis we'd really need to see the whole 2-hour interview, since the accusation of being edited out of context doesn't just mean there's editing, because there's nothing unfair about editing a clip if the edit doesn't change the meaning in a way that matters, but what Sam Kasman is alleging does change the meaning, from making him look unable to answer questions he says he answered, to making it look like he brought up the over-the-top Obama-Nazi comparison that he says was actually brought up first by the interviewer. So, to clear up the conflict, I'm sending a copy of this video to Miles Kahn, the producer of the Daily Show segment, using the email address he provides to the public on his professional web page, along with a request that he will release the full unedited interview with Sam Kasman in this one case because of the allegations, and let us look behind the curtain to see if this segment stayed true to John Stewart's commitment that his show doesn't take cheap shots or edit people out of context. It's the only way to publicly clear up the controversy and get to the truth.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy this thing that the only people out there who are prejudiced, all right, the only people out there who are prejudiced are the right. There's people who are prejudiced on both sides. Look, my point is very simple. I see stuff O'Reilly and Glenn Beck do, and I say, wow, that's very discriminatory. Mm-hmm. That's very prejudicial. And I look at stuff that Colbert and John Stewart do, and I think, wow, that's very prejudicial. So, you know, we have a tendency to only look at one side. I'm saying we ought to be able to look at both sides. Well, that's all I'm saying.
I certainly agree with that, but here...
So if we're going to call one side bigoted, we probably got to look at the other side and say the same thing.
I'd be careful with the word bigot. I'd be careful
I'll take the word bigot back. I'll say prejudicial.
Look at what I did here.
Uninformed. I think John's show is essentially prejudicial.
You're telling me that...
I'm telling you that everybody who runs CNN is a lot like Stewart. And a lot of people who run all the other networks are a lot like Stewart. And to imply that somehow they, the people in this country who are Jewish, are an oppressed minority? Yeah.
Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people, and that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
They have a history of oppression, no?
No question about that.
Turn them off!
This is a theater of the absurd, my friends. This is the theater of the absurd.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
So if we're going to call one side bigoted, we probably got to look at the other side and say the same thing.
I'd be careful with the word bigot. I'd be careful.
I'll take the word bigot back. I'll say prejudicial.
Look at what I did here.
Uninformed.